Hi, welcome to Insights with Kim Izzarelli. I have here today Bill O'Reilly, yes, the Bill O'Reilly, Westchester's Bill O'Reilly, not that spin zone guy, our Bill O'Reilly, the GOP strategist, frequent Newsday columnist, and extraordinaire is here with us today. I'm so glad you could join us.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me on.
Bill is, I guess I can announce this now, you are the chief strategist and campaign...
I'll be the communications strategist for Rob Astorino, County Executive Astorino. Good. And I work with Rob in his 2009 race, which is a really exciting race. He's a great guy to work with. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to doing it again.
Good, good. Well, I'm sorry I didn't have your exact title yet.
No, that's all right.
Now
I'm not even sure I have one.
So what's it like to run a campaign like that? It's
fun. I mean, I don't run all of the whole campaigns, and there'll be a campaign manager, mm-hmm. hopefully a lot smarter than I am. But what I do is the messaging and the press work, and all the words type of thing. And it's really exciting. It's also really fun to work with someone like Rob Astorino, who's awfully good. I mean, more than anything else, Rob knows who he is, mm-hmm. and you really need, as you know, you've been around the political realm. You want to work with candidates who know who they are, and really have that firm foundation. And Rob certainly has that. He also has extraordinary media skills, which helps a lot.
Right.
I remember the first time. I knew Rob for a couple of years before I worked with him, but in 2009, the first time we went to do a television interview. I watched from the studio, and as a press guy, you're always really nervous and like, mm-hmm. is he going to say something bad or mess up somehow? And I could see that the moment that he got into the seat, he got calmer, and that's the rarest thing because people get nervous on television. And he just got calmer and just said what he said what he planned to say, said it simply, eloquently, straightforward, and I kind of got the chill up the spine, or like Chris Matthews thing up the leg. Saying, wow, this guy's really very good.
Yeah, he has a great camera presence,
he does,
and a great radio voice.
Great radio voice,
yeah.
Exactly.
And he is very comfortable.
You know, a lot of people don't know that Rob's first job right out of college was as the eye in the sky, the helicopter, the traffic reporter. So he used to fly above Westchester and New York City and Queens. He did, I think they did feeds for ABC News and a few other stations. And Rob was the guy saying, with the helicopter in the back, saying, back up on 287. So he's been on radio or on camera for a long time.
So what are some of the things that you're thinking about in terms of the vision or what the county executive is looking for in this next election, in this next term? What are some of the things you're putting out there?
We see it fairly simply. I mean, we'll certainly complicate it as we go forward. but if you can keep it simple, I think you're on the right path. Essentially, one good term deserves another. I mean, Rob is a guy who came in. He's a Republican in a very Democratic county, but he got the support of a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents, which was really important. Remember, on election night in 2009, the first thing he did was thank Democrats and say, "Thank you so much for giving me your faith, and thank you so much for trusting me to run your government, and to independents as well." And he's managed to forge a bipartisan coalition, which I think is what people want. Mm-hmm. Rob came in with a number of promises to the voters, and he's fulfilled them all. He's gone one by one and done what he said he was going to do, and that's such a rarity in politics. Mm-hmm. I mean, people can blow a lot of air during campaigns, but you have to see what they do when they actually get into office, and he's done that. The first thing that he did when he went into office was cut the size of his own staff, required that his own staff, including himself, mm-hmm. Begin to pay for some of their health insurance, which people wanted. People in the private sector routinely contribute to their own health insurance and their pensions, and he led by example. And so I think Rob has a very good record to speak about. Mm-hmm. And if you do a good job, if you do what you say you were going to do when you ran, I think you get reelected. I think people appreciate that of all political backgrounds.
Right. I think he had that experience being in a town as a supervisor, I believe.
Exactly. He was on the town board. He was on the school board.
Right.
He's a guy who really cares about local things,
Right.
which is what programs like this are all about.
Right.
And people who watch programs like this care about local things.
Right.
Rob was on a school board at a young age. He was on his town board. He's always been someone who's cared and dug in deeply to what's going on, to his neighbors and to his community.
Right.
And so, I think if you have that kind of background in public service, it comes through.
Right.
It comes through.
I mean, my conversations with him and what I share with him is the cost of health care and benefits, pension benefits for public sector employees. And he's deeply concerned about that. He's concerned about the debt that will be leaving our children and managing that debt. So tell me a little bit about the county's credit rating and what Rob's done there.
Yeah, I mean, Rob has managed in very difficult times to keep a AAA credit rating for the 3.5 years that he's been in office. And that takes a lot of discipline.
Right.
I mean, a lot of credit ratings, including the credit rating of the United States, has been downgraded.
Right.
And many other countries and many states and municipalities.
And why is that important?
It's important because if you do need to borrow money, it keeps the costs lower.
Right.
And that directly comes out of taxpayers' pockets. The chief pledge, I mean, when Rob ran, he talked about the tax madness in Westchester. And we all know that Westchester has the highest property taxes in the country. And that really affects real people in real ways. I mean, we often talk about that in a theoretical way. You know, it's the highest, but what does that mean? It means that your son or daughter may not be able to go to camp, or it means that someone who wanted to go to Syracuse will need to go to a state school instead,
maybe
which is fine.
By choice.
State
Maybe
schools are
by
terrific,
choice.
maybe by choice.
Yeah.
But or it may mean a vacation gets canceled, or in so many cases, it means that someone's retirement gets put off,
Right.
or that they have to go back to work from retirement to go work. You know, you go into a Staples or to supermarkets, and you see senior citizens that are working behind the counters,
Right.
and you know with the thick shoes because they've been on their feet all day, and you just think they shouldn't have to be doing this. But that's property taxes. That's what happens when you let these property taxes take off.
Right.
And so Rob said he was going to attack the tax madness in Westchester County. He's done it.
Right.
He's managed to lower the size of government over 3 years, which never happens, and freeze taxes, actually lower taxes in every budget that he's had, that he's passed, which is an amazing thing. He's actually lowered taxes, property taxes, county taxes by 2% in Westchester. And I mean, it's not a ton, but it's something. And when you think what those taxes might have gone up
Right.
under another administration, I mean, you've had tax increases of 10, 12, 15% in a year. Over 3 years, where could that have gone? And what that does is put senior citizens behind counters at supermarkets. It delays vacations, it kills camp, it kills savings, it delays retirement.
Right.
It really affects people in real ways, like right in their
Personal
pocket.
savings, people that save
Absolutely.
for their own retirement.
Absolutely. You know, there was in Westchester, taxes were doubling every 7 or 10 years
Right.
in the county. And you had people that had, $5,000 taxes that went to 10, that went to 20, that went to 40 in some cases. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Right.
And those taxes never go away. I mean, house values drop, but the taxes remain. And you could negotiate a
the
little
legacy
bit.
cost of those taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so something had to be done about it, and that's what
Right.
Rob's been doing.
Right. And I think it's worth mentioning, too, that I believe the county, are they the largest employer? The county government itself is one of the largest employers.
It is. Well, what the county does, and a lot of people don't, and I frankly didn't until I was working with Rob on his first campaign. The county government has to facilitate a lot of the programs that come down from the state. So, of the county's budget, I should know the number, but it's like 85% of every dollar that the county spends is mandated by the state. And it's for Medicaid and for, all kinds of programs that the state mandates. And what the county does is actually run those programs and facilitate that spending. The county has very little of its own discretionary money. And unfortunately, with all the mandates coming down from the state, that dollar figure gets narrower and narrower every year. And so you can either raise taxes, or you can eliminate waste. You could start asking for things like healthcare contributions, contributions towards healthcare.
Right, asking employees to put in some of their money.
And in fact, I think I saw yesterday that that to its credit, the nurses union has agreed to pay something towards health care.
I read that this morning.
Yeah, which is terrific.
Thank you very much,
right.
nurses union.
And the nurses are wonderful to agree to that.
That's wonderful.
People in the private sector are used to this, and sometimes I think they feel like they're being cheated a little bit. But they're not by the nurses today, because the nurses are doing what they stepped up and did what had to be done to help keep the county in a healthy place.
We have great employees, great quality of life here in Westchester.
Exactly. The employees
really
are terrific. That's right.
So tell us, talking about discretionary spending, tell us a little bit about Playland and what's happening there and what the plans are.
Yeah, I actually don't work with the county government, so I can't tell you to the minute what's going on. But one of the things that Rob pledged to do when he ran was find a sustainable way to keep Playland going forward. Playland was losing $4 or $5 million a year,
right?
And continues to, because people just don't show up like they used to. Now everyone loves Playland; it's near and dear to everybody's heart. I spent time as a kid there. Right. I bring my children there. I know Rob brings his children there all the time. I'm sure that you do as well. So people care about Playland, and they want it to be preserved. But there's got to be a way, Rob said, to keep Playland working and healthy and active, but without draining taxpayer resources. It actually should be making some money. So Rob put out to bid contracts for Playland, how to make it better, and a number of those bids came through. Sustainable Playland is one right now that I think is certainly the leader. And if you haven't seen the plans, they're just fabulous. You can, I think if you go on and Google Sustainable Playland, there's a video available online, and it's just a remarkable what's being planned.
What's differences? There's some repurposing or
some repurposing. Sustainable Playland, and I don't mean to push for one plan over others, because there are several plans out there, but I think that's the one that is moving forward the best. It's a group of Rye residents and others that got together and said, hey, we have some really smart people around. Let's come up with our own plan that will work for the community, work for the county, and improve the facility. And so they brought in Dan Biederman from Dan Biederman is known worldwide from the 42nd Street bid. They brought in a number of experts who live locally, and they put together a plan to increase parkland space there, to keep the core Playland, the main roller coaster, the Dragon Coaster. Dragon Coaster, will always be there, and all the attractions that have been there.
Good.
So people will know it, but there'll also be extra parkland. There'll be better restaurants. There'll be I hope they bring in like a Shake Shack or something. But there'll be great restaurants. There'll be a catering facility there.
Cool.
There'll be all kinds of extras that will spruce up the facility, and most importantly, the rides will be run by concessionaires who will pay Westchester County. They'll pay the taxpayers to do those rides. The taxpayers will no longer be on the hook for the costs.
Terrific. Well, I think it's worth also mentioning too that I know, Bill, we're both, I would consider us moderate Republicans.
Yeah.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're also on the board of Log Cabin Republicans, which is interesting. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually have. I'm not on the board now, but the Log Cabin Republicans I've known for many years. It's a gay and lesbian Republican organization, and the Log Cabins are great. I'm heterosexual. I have a wife and children, but I've known the Log Cabins for a long time, and they're just terrific Republicans, and it's a very organized group. And in the Hudson Valley, I know they have a terrific chapter.
Right.
And the Log Cabins provide funding for campaigns and foot soldiers and events and
largely responsible for marriage equality.
For marriage equality, exactly.
Last year.
I don't think that would have happened without the Log Cabin Republicans.
That's right. I believe
because they were always there to. They had access to Republican legislators.
That's right.
And they were there to say, hey, we're Republican too, and we feel this way about this issue. And so I think for a while the Log Cabin Republicans I think were shunned in the gay community. Because they were Republican, and I think some gay and lesbian leaders, to their credit, saw wisdom in embracing it and saying, "Hey, can you help us move some of these things forward?" And they did. So a year ago, I was I went and spoke and gave a campaign recap to the Log Cabins, and they said, "Can you join our Hudson Valley chapter?" On the board, and I said, "Sure," but we never formalized it. But but we'd be happy to do it.
Well, I'm always there. I always support them.
Oh, terrific! Good. Fantastic.
So tell us just a little bit more about what's happening with the GOP. Maybe some insight about what's happening on the national level. A lot of new initiatives that are out there.
There's actually there's a very healthy reflection going on in the Republican Party, because the 2012 election was not a good one for us, and I think that the party has done a good job in facing that and the reasons behind it bravely, honestly. Mm-hmm. The RNC chairman, a gentleman named Reince Priebus, just issued a report that a lot of smart people worked on called the Republican Growth and Opportunity Project. And that is about a 100-page report that talks about things that Republicans need to do to expand their base, to do better among women, among Hispanics, among African Americans, among Asians. It's all kinds of it's kind of a blueprint for the party going forward for things, practical things that should be done in order to really expand the universe of Republicans. Mm-hmm. And it's a healthy thing. Whether all of those things are correct or the right moves, or all of those things get adopted, it's at least moving in the right direction. And I think in political parties, it's really important that you have some introspection, and that you be critical in between election years of yourself, of your processes, and you try and do better.
Right.
I think it's an important thing. It's a good step forward. I was with Chairman Priebus in Brooklyn this week or late last week, where he met with he came in from Washington and met with a group of African American leaders at a church in Brooklyn, a huge congregation, 35,000 members, just an amazing congregation. And it was a very frank meeting, saying we haven't always been knocking on the door. We haven't been in the African American community enough. We should be in your churches listening. We should be doing more outreach, and we haven't, and we're sorry about that. And let's try and form a relationship. I think that's great. I mean, that's no punches pulled. Mm-hmm. It was a very straight analysis of where the party has fallen down. And when you think about Black Americans voted for the Republican Party for generations, mm-hmm. and Eisenhower, Republican, was at the leading edge of the civil rights movement, and then somewhere along the line we lost that to the point where, I know the president's African American, so there's a natural affinity there if you're proud of your own culture, but the African American vote was well into the 90% mm-hmm. tile, and that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a single party group, I think.
Mm-hmm. You've been around politics for a long time, and I know you come from a very
yeah.
political family, and
Sure, yeah.
I was just wondering if you would want to comment a little bit about your family and uncle and what it was like to grow up in your family.
Sure. Yeah, my mother was Maureen Buckley, who was Bill and Jim Buckley's sister, mm-hmm. and so she died very young, and so I didn't get to know her. But it was fun growing up in a family where politics was always discussed. My Uncle Jim ran for United States Senate as a conservative in 1970 and won, and that's really put the hooks into me on politics. We lived in the city, and I remember being on 93rd Street and 5th Avenue, and I used to put up Jim Buckley for Senate signs. And every morning I'd go downstairs and they were torn down, and I just couldn't get it. So I thought I'll put this one up really, really high. So I was trying to climb this pole on 5th Avenue, and a guy came by with a beard. This is 1969, and kind of a shaggy-haired hippie type guy. And he saw this little cherub-cheeked, freckle-faced kid trying to put a political sign up, and he said, "Oh, let me help you out." And he lifted me onto his shoulders and lifted me far up onto the pole. And as I was putting it on, he saw who I was putting the sign up for, mm-hmm. and he dropped me. He dropped me on the ground, right on the cement. And I remember thinking, this politics stuff is really interesting. You know what I mean? Like no grown-up has ever dropped me on the ground. And so that was kind of the start in politics.
Well, I remember as a kid, in the 70s, my mom would nothing was permanent press. My mom would iron every Sunday afternoon, and she would be in the basement ironing, watching your uncle on
Fire Line, yeah.
Meet the Press or whatever the shows were. And I mean, here they were. My parents were, Union, Democrat, Connecticut.
Yeah.
But she loved him.
Is that right?
And
yeah.
I think there was something sweet about that time that, and also in the conservative message was, it was all inclusive. It embraced culture. It embraced values. I mean, she just absolutely loved him, and I can just distinctly remember that as a child. And
I think it was high-minded days, and and I think when National Review and that conservative coalition came together, they were very good about rooting out anti-Semitism or other bigotry that was out there in some of the extremes, and that coalition is hopefully staying together. But I remember, I'd walk by firing line and I'd see it on at a friend's house or something, and I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm saying how unfortunate it is that vocabulary is not genetic.
So it's good. So what else is going on in the state that we should?
Well, the state budget. I think by the time viewers watch this, the state budget hopefully will be done.
Right.
And I'll be going up there later today, and hopefully we'll get some intelligence on what's happening there. But the state will go through the budget process, and then the rest of the legislature will take off. There are a lot of issues before the state. I think the principal issue for towns in Westchester, towns anywhere in the state, and for counties, the real issue that has to be addressed is mandate relief. And because mandates are the things that are driving up our taxes on the local level. We spoke off camera before this, and you talked about towns deciding whether to break through that 2% tax cap that came through. And that's what a lot of towns are going to have to be dealing with in the next few weeks and months, is whether to break through the tax cap. The tax cap was a wonderful thing, and Governor Cuomo gets credit for advancing that. It was a Republican initiative that the governor embraced and moved forward. But with the tax cap, with that 2% property tax cap, was supposed to come mandate relief. And so what we have now is a 2% property tax cap, but mandates coming down from Albany that chew up entire budgets. That are growing
much faster than 2%.
Much faster than 2%. Yeah. And so communities are forced to cut into budgets, and it's a difficult thing to do. And it's hard. You feel like a bad parent if you say, "Oh, we can't spend that money on the school." But at the same point, the property taxes are just killing.
But I mean, I feel it's a responsible thing to do.
Absolutely.
And it's leaving our children with debt, and we really need to get control of this. That's right. Another suggestion has been pension smoothing as a way to control the cost, which is also irresponsible. I mean, the bottom line here is it really takes a lot of political courage to get up and address some of these things.
It does.
I mean, it's not pretty, it's not fun, it doesn't make you popular, but being a good parent, sometimes we look back at our parents and think, gosh, I'm so glad they did this. I'm so glad that they were disciplined in this way, because tomorrow and the next day,
that's right,
you were able to benefit from that.
Sometimes you have to eat your spinach,
That's it.
I remember when Rob Astorino was first elected, I heard him speak one night, and he said, it was just wonderful. He said that he was talking to a group of people who wanted to run for political office, and he said, if you get elected and you're not willing to be thrown out of office for doing the right thing, then don't run.
Right.
Then don't do it. The voters will reward you for doing the right thing, but even if they don't, you have to make these tough calls, because if you don't, you're killing the next generation. The debt issue, I mean, you talk about the federal debt issue, is just, it's so wrong. I mean, the federal government is just stealing from our children. $16 trillion deficit. That's going to be $25 trillion in just a few years. That is going to just. I mean, I have a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they're stuck. It doesn't mean they're just going to pay it, but they're not going to be able to get jobs because all the corporate borrowing is going to be crowded out from government borrowing, and the fact that it's really unfortunate. I think that President Obama has done nothing on it. He put together a blue ribbon panel, the Simpson Bowles Commission, that came back with some very good recommendations, and recommendations that not all Republicans would love. I mean, there were some increases there, and spending cuts, but it was a plan forward, and President Obama showed that he really set that commission up as window dressing because he did nothing with it.
Well, it's all tone, and it starts at the top.
Yes.
It's having the political courage, and it's the ability to sacrifice among a group.
That's right.
And Rob Astorino is also a good person to take that leadership role and get collaboration with a group of people to see, look, if we come together on this, we can get this done. But we're all going to have to give up a little bit.
We're all going to have to give up a little bit, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, or whatever you are. We're all in this together at the end of the day. And we need to figure out a way to work together. That's why it was so good to see a group of Democrats join with Rob Astorino in the county to form a bipartisan coalition to actually get a good budget done. And there was compromise. They went back and forth, and the Democrats got some of what they wanted, the Republicans got some of what they wanted, and together they moved the budget forward. And that's what voters want. Right. I mean, taxpayers are busy. You know, we have jobs, we have children, we're doing things, we're raising our families, and we expect when we send people into public office that they'll actually get the job done. I mean, on basics like budget. I mean, the U.S. Senate hasn't submitted a budget in years, in 4 years. Like you expect them to actually do the fundamental aspects of their jobs. And so it's good to see that that's working in Westchester. Yeah. It may not be working in Washington, but here in Westchester it is.
It is, and many credits to Mike Kaplowitz and Virginia Perez.
And Virginia Perez.
And we want to see more leadership.
Yeah, these are our two Democrats, Mike Kaplowitz and Virginia Perez, that actually broke with their conference and joined with Rob Astorino and the Republicans to make sure that a budget could get done. Yeah. A group of Democrats, unfortunately, stormed out of the chamber, shut the lights out, like to turn off the people's business. And these two Democrats, Mike Kaplowitz and Virginia Perez, stuck in there and work with the Republicans to put together a good budget.
Yeah, my heroes.
And with zero tax increases again. Yeah,
very good. So, just have a few minutes left here, but I just want to talk about you for a few seconds as a witer. Yeah. I love your column. I love the pieces that you have in your BlackBerry alarm clock.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've actually been very bad about updating that. I had a blog for a number of years, which I still have. It was called the BlackBerryAlarmClock.com, which is a very strange name. But there was a band in the 1960s called the Strawberry Alarm Clock, and I was always writing blog items on a BlackBerry, and so I kind of borrowed the name. But from that, I was actually lucky enough to get a Newsday column twice a week, first in Westchester Newsday, and then in both Long Island and the Westchester Newsday. So twice a week, I get to spout off about 700 words on just about anything. So it's a lot of fun. It's everyone should be able to do that.
What was your favorite piece, or the best piece that you feel you wrote?
I don't.
Bring your children into some of these too, which I think is also interesting.
Yeah, I think it's important to write. And some people say, "Why would you do that? Don't bring your family in. Don't do personal stuff." But I think it has to be. I know one that I liked. In my town, there was a senior center up on a hill that had been there. It was called the Swiss Home. It had been there for about 100 years. And my daughter and her then boyfriend snuck into it. I mean, it was abandoned. It had been abandoned for a long time. They went through a window, which I shouldn't be happy about. And they came back with a photograph of a veteran from the World War II era. The next week, the place was razed, and all that was left from 100 years of history was that photo. And I got to write a column about that photo, saying, there's so many deep memories here. Does anyone know who this is? Can you find a home for this photo?
That's a great story. And
fun.
If you go on the BlackBerry Alarm Clock blog, just Google it. It'll come up. I'm sure.
Or on Newsday. Yeah.
And on Newsday, there's also a link as well.
If you're a Cablevision subscriber, then you get Newsday for free.
There you go. I'm so glad you could be here with us today, Bill. And
thank you
for coming on. Please come back again.
Absolute pleasure.
And always interesting, always insightful. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you.
Take care.
Real pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.